Before we get started, a quick reminder. This podcast is meant for educational purposes only. We're here to share information and experiences, not to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. Always check with your healthcare provider for advice that's right for you. Shut the Front Door, a podcast from Infinity Hydration and Wellness. Join us for holistic health and wellness talk designed to help you feel better emotionally, mentally, and physically. Time to dive in.
Welcome back to Shut the Front Door, and we have a special guest, Michele Hanna. Please raise your hand. Whoop,
Here.
whoop. She is here. Michele Hanna comes to us. She is a wife. She is a mama. She is a former teacher, and she has one heck of an intro that she used to give at school, and she promised us that she would do it.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Good morning, Infinity Hydration and Wellness. Today on the menu, we've got some cute blondes, and don't you worry, they sure are yummy.
You did this at school?
Good morning, Wildcats. This is Mrs. Hanna here with your lunch menu on the day 3 of the 6-day cycle, and you'll be happy to know we've got some sloppy joes.
6-day cycle? Is that what it was?
It was a 6-day cycle, and it would rotate through, and the menu would follow that. And yeah,
Gosh, it's been too long.
Yeah, a lot has changed.
But you left the system.
I did. I joined when I was 5 in kindergarten, and I stayed until I was in it a while. Oh, wow. And I think that's probably the wildest journey as being a 5-year-old going into kindergarten, and then you're in the school system if you decide to be a teacher forever, literally. And I will not sugarcoat it. Just like any job, there are lots of really great things about it, but just like any job, there are things about it that you don't love. And depending on the season of life and the season of the world, education looks different each time you go.
How long were you a teacher for?
12 years. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were a teacher for that long.
Yeah, I don't think I did either, to be honest with you.
What grade?
I started out teaching first grade, and then I bounced around in between long-term positions, and I did a K-1 split. I did a second grade. I did a little mini stint filling in for a special ed teacher that was out on maternity leave, and then I got a contract, which is when it got very serious. They pay you a little bit more, which was nice. Yeah. And then I did Title I reading intervention for pretty much the endeavor until I was done, which is for people that don't realize what that is. But if you're in public ed, you probably do. It's federally funded programming that public schools receive money from the federal government to institute and put other things into place for different reasons. And it's the money. It comes from a different place. But a set of criteria that you have to meet if you use that money to pay for a teacher. So that's where my position would come in. Yeah, and so I worked with primary grades, K to 2, reading interventions to struggling readers. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own as it went, because I can't not do morning announcements that way. So it was nice because it allowed the flexibility to do other things throughout the building. And I taught in different size schools. And
then why did you decide to leave?
I don't have a one.
I guess they can't fire you now.
They can't fire me, but
She broke out of jail already.
Yeah, right. We were, for the listeners, we were joking saying about my Red Solo Cup. And I said at one point in time when I was teaching, I got called into the principal's office, and it was related to a Red Solo Cup, and that it's just the pressures of being a teacher are real, and you have to uphold yourself in a really professional way, because obviously you've got a lot of little kids looking at you, and you're supposed to set this great example. But we are human, and humans consume beverages out of Red Solo Cups on weekends when they're not being a teacher sometimes. And then that was a hard concept as a young, early into teaching person. And we were with friends and out places, and then Facebook became a reality, and people like to post things places. So that was in the earlier days of, hey, by the way.
So you didn't, I thought you had a Red Solo Cup at while you were working.
I mean, I probably would have. No, I can't. Dear God, I wouldn't have made it 12 years if that's what I was doing. No, I had it outside office school property. That's why it felt so weird, because I didn't feel like we should have been getting in trouble for it. But don't get me wrong. Like, as a mom, what I do when my kids were in the public ed system, would I want to see their teachers out, like, behaving in a way that I wouldn't necessarily want my kids to see? No, but that's also my job to not let my kid peruse Facebook and see adults doing adult things. But, I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
But, I mean, you're just holding a cup.
Yeah, that's what our point was. We were like, well, you don't know what's in my cup.
Yeah.
It could have been fruit juice.
No, I mean,
It
like, if your shirt's
wasn't.
off or something.
Again, it wasn't, but I was also of age. I was allowed to drink, you know. It was handled very tastefully by everybody. It was just more of like a reminder, I think, in our youth when you're going into a profession. Your goggles are on. You don't realize, like, you take on this role, and all of a sudden you're open to criticism from everywhere.
They haven't met nurses.
Oh, I got in trouble at the hospital for my social media.
Oh, man.
When COVID hit and I said how, like, everyone just has to work as a team. I got called into the office. I was not allowed to talk about the hospital. And I didn't say anything bad either. Like, it wasn't anything nasty. It was just like, everyone
you
needs
two
to.
are both naughty. That's why you're on that side of the table.
Well, let's just spin the table.
So the next, what you said, when your kids.
When my kids. Okay,
So then now they're out.
So fast forward to like year 10 of my teaching, and I guess I should also preface this with, tell them, say
Another
it's okay.
special guest is here, Miss Naya.
Snacks and all. You know how to have a good time. You gotta have a little snack. I should preface it with the idea that it wasn't just a decision that I made. Like, it was a whole household decision. My husband is a funeral director and a coroner, and that lifestyle is not something that is easily understood. And being married to it and making schedules work around somebody that doesn't have a schedule, because it's just all the time. So by year 10 of me teaching, us having 2 kids, and us realizing that life was kind of just like speeding right on by, we had to make some decisions. And the public education system is a beast in itself to understand, and then raising kids. And mind you, I started my kids in private school while I was a public educator, and then put them into the public schools that I was teaching in at the time too, because I really do. Some of my best friends are still teachers. Like, I didn't leave any of it for one particular reason. And I think, ask me 5 years from now, maybe looking back, like, my reasons, they've changed. I mean, even in the year or two that my kids have been out, I have a different perspective of it even now than I did when I left, because I wasn't leaving to be home with my kids. I was leaving because we, as a unit at home, something had to give. And teachers are tasked with things that people would not even understand. I mean, you do because you're nurses and you are providing a service, and people forget that you're a human and you have a life and you're tired sometimes and you can't say no in those jobs. Well, when you go and you have everybody's children sitting in front of you, like, you can't, it's not their fault if you didn't get enough sleep last night, or it's not their fault if you didn't understand what the curriculum was asking you to present to them, or how to do it, let alone find a way for all of them to understand.
I think so much pressure is put on the teachers, the kids, the parents.
Yeah.
The expectations are very high.
But if I'm being completely honest, like, with myself, I left teaching because I probably should have never been a teacher. I know.
It's that red Solo cup.
Yeah, that's red Solo cup. Yeah, and not because I didn't love it while I was there, but I see friends of mine that are still teaching who I can't imagine. If my kids were there, that's who I'd pick, because they love it and they're good at it, and that was for them. Like, I know without a doubt that was the profession that they should be in. And I look back and I think I made the decision to be a teacher because that's what my friends were doing, and I didn't have anybody telling me or showing me all these other options. And I had a university close by that teachers were, like, dying to get into, and it just all kind of made sense, and it seemed easy, and I just did it. And I also just don't mind putting myself out there and being with people, and you got to be able to people if you're going to teach. Like, you're with people all day long. Little people, by the way, ones that never stop.
But now you are a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different gig, because when I left, I just knew that I was making a decision to walk away from something that had possessed me for years and years and years. It becomes very hard to walk away from a salary like that, benefits like that, knowing you're about to put your family in a position that's a tough one, knowing like, okay, this isn't for me anymore. And it looks like very flippantly done on the outside, but it took 2 years of us financially planning, talking ourselves off those ledges, but knowing it was the right thing for us to do for our family, for me mentally, all of us. And at that point, my kids still went to school the next year. Like my first year leaving public ed, they were still in public ed and I wasn't. And that was an adjustment, but I'm really glad I gave myself that year because remember, teachers have been in school since they were 5. They know no other calendar. They know no other system. Like that is...
I never thought of it that way. Have
I
you,
never
Corinne?
did either.
Like,
No.
man,
Right?
you've been in the system that long.
Yeah, a system. Like, and then one that is just by all social norms, like the system. You know, like think about how much of your life, if your kids are in school, so because yours are, right?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So think about you plan your entire year around a school
All around
calendar,
school. Mm-hmm.
and you plan every sport or every family thing around what time they're out of school and what time they have to get up and go the next day. And those that haven't been a teacher or don't have kids in that system, it's hard to wrap your head around, like, what is everybody doing during the day? Like, you think everybody's doing what we're doing as you're teaching, and you forget that there's this whole other world happening out there, making the rest of the world go round. But yet, that system is what we start all beginnings on.
Yeah.
And then there's
it
still
makes
only...
sense, though. And for those that they find comfort in going to school every day, or do they become teachers then because they need to be in that system?
Right,
still.
it works for them. They enjoy that. They thrive in it. Right. And like the friend that I'm talking about, she's so, but that's what I would say. She's not a teacher that I feel like does things exactly like it's supposed to be done either. Like she really puts kids first. And the state says this, and then you say this as a human, and it's really hard. That's a really hard thing to like balance out. And I struggled with that a lot. I loved entertaining the kids. I loved making connections with the kids. I loved being around them. But I wasn't, this is going to sound terrible. So if I had your children in school, I genuinely cared about what their brains were doing and academically growing. But I just didn't care about this in the sense of, I knew if they didn't like me and they didn't feel connected to me, they didn't care what I had to say. So even if I'm teaching you something really great that could help your reading skills, you're not going to let it store into your long-term memory if you don't care what Mrs. Hanna thinks. But if you care about me and you care what I think of you and are give and take in a good relationship, but no kid cares unless you're fun. So
They look up to you then and have respect for you.
Right. And that to me was more important than anything. And I had so much fun with that. So that's what I mean by I probably shouldn't have been a teacher because the academic side of it at its core was probably, it's hard to say now because I feel like I'm doing them dirty, but it didn't matter to me as much as it did going in and making sure they all knew I loved them and that I was here for a good time because it should be fun. But it's hard. That system is just not built for that. Like for everybody to be able to be that way.
Yeah. I hear of more parents wanting to take their kids out, but they're scared to take were you scared?
Oh, terrified. Imagine this. Okay, I am a public educator for the better part of 10 years, a decade of my life. Then I send my kids to Catholic school. Then I take them out of Catholic school, put them into public school. Then I'm like, I'm out, and by the way, now my kids are out too. Everybody on the outside looking in is probably like, so what does make Michele happy? Because she just keeps changing everything. I'm okay with change. I've always sat in uncomfortable things and it doesn't, I think I thrive in a chaos and I think I thrive in the unknown and not sure because it doesn't overwhelm me. I get overwhelmed, but I get more overwhelmed by routine and structure and having to be in a box. So it just made sense after I got on the other side of it, like, holy cow, this feels different. I can get down with this. But it was horrifying. Like some of my best friends are still teaching.
I think I knew you that year you took them out. Because of unschooling them.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think there's not, when you said like, why did I leave and why aren't my kids there? It's hard because my why in the beginning was because I just want to hang out with my kids. And I know that sounds so selfish in the sense of like, well, why don't you have to go to work? And like, what is it that, why can you do that and I can't? I don't know. I just know that I wanted to try, and it was worth like the risk that my husband and I were willing to take in the financial loss and making life work for us that way is so scary. And it still is. Like we have like a lot of checking in of like, he'll like say, so by the way, I need to reel it in a little bit. Like
them horses, Michelle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like not only did I leave and give up a salary and benefits, I still maintaining a hobby where they literally eat and poop out my money. So
not the kids.
Not great. And not the kids, but them too. Yeah. So, and to answer the broader question of why did I leave, I have no idea. I just knew I needed to. I knew for my mental state, my kids, all of it, it was like everything just kept kind of like pulling me. I'm not a super religious person, but I have a lot of faith. And I think I've just found that we are called in different ways to different professions and different activities and things. And I just really had this thing in me saying like, just try it.
In your gut. You trusted your gut.
Yeah. And I kind of act and then go, let's think about it. And thank God I'm married to a man that somehow is the opposite and still loves me because I'm the dreamer and I throw things out there, and leaving a profession that had a really good routine to it was terrifying. And then I pulled my kids from it. But I knew it was what was best for us at that point. And I have at this point, knock on some wood, particle board of some sort, that it was the best thing I've ever done. And it's still scary, but I have no regrets about that. I get to be with my kids, and it is a luxury to some. Some will think that this was a luxury and that it's like, oh, how lucky. Sure, but my narrative, and still will be, that we worked really, really, really hard, and we still work really, really, really hard to be able to afford this option.
And we've talked about this before. Everybody has a choice. We've talked about this on past podcasts too.
Yeah.
Everybody has a choice. If you don't like what you're doing, change it.
Change it. It's probably my biggest pet peeve in life, when people admire a problem and they want to talk about the problem and admire it a little bit more, and then put it on the shelf and get it back down and let's admire it a little bit more, instead of let's find a solution to the problem. I knew I had a problem. Wasn't sure what it was, but I just started changing some things.
And then you made the sacrifices.
Yes.
And it wasn't easy.
It's still not easy. I mean, I wake up each day still sometimes being like, holy crap, I chose this, like, but in the best kind of way. Like, I just knew. Look at you, right? Tell her, say, come on, Mom, just do it.
I know.
It's not
like
easy.
my inspiration.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
You're gonna need a red Solo cup.
I know, red Solo cup. My husband has helped a lot of families in his profession, and when we were in those moments terrified of what we were doing, we both will remind each other and say, nobody's ever sat in the desk across from him or on the couch across from him and said, man, I just wish I wouldn't have spent all that time with my kids. It's usually the opposite. And I've got plenty of family trauma to unpack and say, I wish I could do it differently. Well, I'm getting the chance to do it differently. And we all have stuff, and we all have trauma, and we all have bills, and we all have things that we have to wade through, But no matter what, you have a choice. My choice seemed...
She's like, Mom, you gotta be like her, and I don't want to go to school.
It's a choice of being prepared to be uncomfortable. So if you don't sit in the uncomfortable well, you got to get right with that first, because
life is uncomfortable though.
Life is messy.
Unless you're living your life solely on social media, which is far from the truth.
Or solely with
ever.
a Solo cup, and you're just blurring those lines every day. It is. Social media thinks that's the thing. I took a big step back. When I left teaching, I went into a job helping run social media and content for a friend of mine's boutique. And it was so fun. It was fun, but I could not have sustained that. And clearly, because we stopped. And she herself, we've all, both of us are not doing what we were doing at that point. So we knew it had a shelf life. And then after that, I took a big step back from social media, and I peruse it. Sure, we all troll it, but I mean, posting. You'll see, I bet if you went back far enough, you would see there was probably a time where it's that last timestamp, and now all you see is when I share a dog's missing or a kid's missing or like something like that, like to put it out there because that is helpful. But otherwise, I need it.
You're so far out of the algorithm, nobody sees it. You might as well not even share it.
I know that I've left the echo chamber, folks. I've been out for a bit. But yeah, it's social media makes you believe that what I've done is super easy and that it's so possible. And I can sit here and say, and we all have a choice. You can do it. You can do it. You can, but it was not easy. I gained a lot of mental dollars, but I lost a crap ton of actual dollars. Like, and I still do, and we still are because we're in a one income household now, and that looks scary. I mean, society's not built on that anymore, and yes, I'm sure it looks like I'm living in luxury. Like, oh, look, she gets to stay home with her kids. She gets to pull her kids from school. She gets to be with them.
And then go build a one-room schoolhouse. so Corinne
can be my
put-
teacher so that my kids don't have to go to public school. She agrees. Do it.
I agree too, but you know what I say? You already own one. It's called your house.
Yeah.
You're living
She's
in
not
it.
allowed to leave me.
No, but I mean,
Michelle, you're fired.
No, I don't mean it like
And
that.
that's it for Michelle.
I don't mean it like that. I genuinely mean it when I say, like, because there's been a lot of people that have said, like, what do you know to teach? How do you know what to teach them? Or they assume I'm able to do this because I was an educator. Here's the thing. This is what I will say. When I was teaching, kids would sit across from you, and if you it wasn't going to matter what I said by the end of the day if their mom was saying it differently.
Yeah,
It was
that's a
never,
good point.
it was never going to matter. Like kids' vocabulary, there's like a wild statistic on this. So like your kid's vocabulary by the age of 5, there's like, and none of these numbers will be correct. I'm just gonna say it that it was a big percentage. A big percentage of your child's vocabulary. Everybody assumes they're getting like when they hit school, that's where they're getting stuff from. Where have they been for the first 5 years of their life with you? And we learn more in that first 5 years of life as far as like. Tell me about.
I know. See,
First 5 years
she's
of
gonna.
life are important, right? Think about what your kids gained in that first 5. It's astronomical compared to the amount that they'll absorb over the next part of their lives because it is quite literally what everything else is built on.
And how you treat people.
And you didn't
all the things.
Right. And so therefore, like it's so easy to think like we've been convinced that you're supposed to just like trust that at 5 they go to kindergarten and that all of the people that have them know better than you.
That's my biggest thing.
But
I never really thought about it. I never. We're conditioned to just
Well,
talk.
yeah.
Well, I had to take my kid out because of truancy because of it was 3-4 years ago.
I
Yeah.
had to have 2 SATE
know.
meetings, which are these school attendance. And I'm not sure what the acronym is
Yeah.
for, but I just know that it was because my kids were late all the time, or or there were too many absences. Mostly late. I'll be honest, I was late a lot. However,
But they showed
I
up.
also had a child whose anxiety was so riddled with going to school that it would the lengths that took me to get her in the door every morning to get her there. Like it's a documented thing via the guidance counselor that we are working on this because we are seeking therapies at this point because I was getting in trouble for not having him there on time, but they didn't see what was happening from 6 o'clock in the morning until 7:43 when she was getting marked late. It was just a lot. And the anxiety, I have a lot of regrets about that, by the way. I don't have a lot of regrets in this lifetime, but not trusting my intuition, knowing I was doing damage at that point I'm still mad at myself about that one. I tortured her and I probably should have just tried to get my journey started a little bit sooner, but I couldn't, so.
But then you've had a whole other journey, which brought you more so on this podcast too.
Wait,
because then you've had you've had a health journey on top of all of this.
Yeah, I know, it's hilarious, right? Mental health, physical health, really funny stuff.
And initially, but it was planting seeds over time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you're called to people, you're called to jobs, you're called to stuff, you know, for whatever reason it is. And you came across my path and into a better part of my journey of me of already leaving a career, reshaping what home looked like, reshaping what school looked like for my kids, lots of it. And you've been there for a good chunk of that, but it was at the early stages of that.
The first time I met you, I just thought she was a crazy curly-headed girl at a rodeo, like chasing her kids around. I was like, this is going to be really fun. I don't know her, but I think it's going to be fun.
You know, I feel like there's been a lot of those instances where I wish I could see from the outside looking in going like, get the popcorn. Like, you never know what I'm going to say or where I'll end up. And I have a really small attention span. So it just like bing, bing all over the place. And my kids are being shaped through that as well. Yeah, rodeo changed lives. And that was a big part of, you know, when your kids are in school and following a calendar, rodeo doesn't often follow that calendar. And the weather doesn't. So I started seeing some changes there that needed to be made. And it all ended up somehow me sitting across from you feeling a whole lot better, by the way.
But in return, though, you are not only homeschooling your kids, but the healthcare journey you're on, you're getting to share with your kids and your husband.
Oh, it's changed so much about the way we live. So being home allowed for more time to see and admire those problems of not making great choices. But I think mentally I started unloading stuff. And then when you mentally unload, it starts reminding you've physically probably unloaded it right onto my plate and then right back in somehow. And that stress of things. So I had a lot of mental detoxing that was happening, but the physical side wasn't happening. And I hate that word, by the way, detoxing, in the sense of I wasn't juicing and just slamming it and hoping everything was going to be okay. It takes physical and mental work. And I had done a lot of, I think, mental work before you and I met. We've talked a lot about like therapy and things that we've both gone through. And that work was nice to have had in my back pocket when I decided to take on the physical work, because it challenges you mentally.
You have to be mentally prepared to go into saying, what do I have to do to change the supplements, the foods? I mean, we see this all the time with our patients. When they walk in the door, sometimes we tell them, you just might not be ready, but when you're ready, we're here for you.
Yeah. And I think I was overwhelmed in a lot of ways. That year that I stopped teaching, but my kids were in school, I was paralyzed. Like, I literally felt paralyzed. I am a very social, extroverted person. I have now isolated myself. I'm at home. Everybody that I'm used to talking to is at work, and my kids are at school, and my husband's at work, and I'm supposed to make this house look really nice because I have all the time in the world now. Like, there's no excuse. Why aren't the dishes done, and why isn't the clothes? And this is my own thing. This isn't anybody else saying stuff to me. This is me going, holy crap, where's the time going, and what have I been doing this year? And then, mind you, I'm turning like 38 at that point, 37 maybe, can't remember, somewhere in there. So hormonally, stuff's changing. Schedule, everything has been completely turned upside down. And I'm the person that's usually okay sitting in the discomfort. But this was really foreign. Like, who am I supposed to be talking to during the day? I found myself talking to the guy at the mill. Yep. Joe probably really doesn't like to see me coming. At least that year he didn't. And I literally ended up in my brother-in-law's office. I know. That's what he said. He was like, Michelle, you're losing your mind. You got to start talking to some people. And just by people, not therapists, just people in general. Like, my brother-in-law's a PA. And I was going crazy. I'm sitting at a kitchen table crying, going, I don't have to work today. My kids are taken care of. Why am I so sad? I was literally feeling I was going nuts. And I'm a happy person. And Zach's just looking at me like, tell me how I can help. Like, what do you need from me? And of course I can't explain it, but something's wrong. I've literally been given what I asked for, and now I'm still not happy. Like, what is wrong with me? So I called Johnny up. I'm like, or the office, and I get an appointment. And he's probably thinking I'm coming in for like UTI or something. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not sure what's wrong with me. And he's like, my brother-in-law, what?
How long before
this to you?
Yeah.
6 months, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. So I'm like, Johnny, I'm like, I've got cancer. I'm having anxiety attacks. I think I'm not sure if this is what it is. And he's like, literally just sitting on his stool, like letting me just cry in his office that I've booked an appointment for, like, and he's looking at me and he's like, okay, well, what do you want to have me check today? I love him so much. And I said, well, I need to make sure I don't have cancer. And he's like, okay, you don't. Just like, but I probably do, right? Like, I know what I'm feeling. Or like I've got like what in your leg travels to your heart. Boom. What do you call those?
A blood clot?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. See, I have no business diagnosing myself with a blood clot. I can't even remember what it's called. Johnny knows that too. And he's looking at me. He's like, Michelle, remember that conversation one time when you used the word amoeba instead of placebo? And I was like, yeah. He's like, this is why you probably shouldn't be diagnosing yourself with ailments. And he's like, I love you, but let's just break it down. You like people and you like to talk clearly. And now you're in my office after a year of isolating and you're talking to me like you've scheduled a therapy appointment. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I said,
now my brother-in-law is my therapist.
yes. He's like, I literally said, because mind you, at this point, I didn't even tell Zach I was going. Like I booked an appointment during the day to his brother's medical office
to see if she had cancer.
To see if I had cancer. I didn't tell anybody. That's how crazy I was going. Isolating's not a
And
great.
I knew you at this point and had no idea you were going through this.
No.
Was I like, here's these labs, come do this? I don't even know how that got started.
Honest to God, I feel like at some point I probably had another similar breakdown at rodeo or like in an evening of some point and just realizing. But like I knew what you did and I knew, but like that's also part of this problem. Where did I go? I went to another system that I was really familiar with, to somebody I was really familiar with and that I knew I could trust. Like I knew I could go talk to him and he wasn't going to just like at family dinner be like, so your wife is crazy. Like he wasn't going to do that to me. I know. I am crazy. I know. But I it's another system built to make you think that that's the first place you turn when you're not feeling great. And I had to make some serious acceptance about the fact that I needed to figure out what was physically going wrong. Like I could pinpoint some of the mental after him and I had that nice conversation of I need to get stimulated somewhere else. Like I need to like do other things during the day that are going to get me out and see people. But I still wasn't ignoring the obvious of that I physically let myself kind of just go.
But you needed answers and you knew something was wrong, though.
Yeah, I did. I knew something was up. So that path somehow through observation, watching you, A, get healthier yourself, and B, start helping everybody around you get healthy and have a line at rodeos of people like lining up to solicit your care and like your like just free help. Yeah. There was no other way of doing it. Right, all those consultations. I just like you can't deny the obvious when you have your company around you getting healthier, but like you're not. And I knew from family history that I was not a healthy individual by genetics, and I knew that I was making all these grand changes to like my surroundings and my climate and my people and my job and all these things, but why was I still not feeling good? And there was a reason, and it was because physiologically, if that's the right word, I knew that's where my next turn had to be. And fast forward to realizing that there's this place called Infinity Hydration and Wellness. And really cute gals that work there that help all people.
I heard they're yummy.
Yeah. I told you I was going to black out and not remember what I said. Yeah, I did call you yummy. They are cute blondes. Like, come on.
Especially brings us
brunettes
cuties.
at the office. Dom, she's a brunette. You change it up there. There's every little flavor of fun. Little flavor of fun everywhere. Yeah, I knew I needed to get to you. But I had just left a job that stopped paying me, and it's scary when your insurance is knowing my insurance was probably not going to cover a lot of stuff. But I also needed to make sure there was stuff to be covered.
But the thing about me, and that got real fun, was that I took this course and was like, Michelle, maybe this is what's wrong with you. Can I just run your labs?
So remember it was you had a deal running where it was like
Yes.
it was a combo labs of like hormones and blood panels. So Zach and I for our 16th wedding anniversary.
Oh gosh, I remember.
Yeah. She was like the guinea pig and came in.
Yeah, because you guys were still think tanking the hormone
program.
club, you know, like that was like we sat in Dom's office afterwards and you were like, okay, so what would you pay for this or what? And I'm like, I don't like subscriptions, but you got my interest because I know you're going to make me feel better. There was like that whole day there. So we ran the labs come back.
Those labs weren't on that one though.
That was more.
It wasn't the lipoprotein panel.
Yes, and I thought everything was like everything on the internet tells you your cortisol and like perimenopause, but there's not like a lot of like definitive things in there. Like if you're experiencing all of these, take this supplement. If you're experiencing all of these, take the supplement. And I was going to go down that rabbit hole, but then you and I had conversations and you said like, why are you going to throw all this stuff at it till you know if you even need it? Like, how do you know you need those things? Yes, we know clinically we are all deficient in things based on the standard of care, and what we eat every day. But I didn't want to just throw away money that A, I didn't have anymore, and B, that to just like pee it out. Like that wouldn't be a great idea. And hormonally, I didn't know if I needed hormones. Like again, all the buzzwords on the internet are HRT and like things, and there's a lot of great stuff there. But how do you know until you get a little more definitive about what you're looking for?
We have a lot of people, they come in for hormones. Some of them don't need it at all.
I did go to the right place. Like I just got a message last night and she's like, can you look at my labs? And they only did progesterone. I'm like, where are your other hormones? Where's your sex binding globulin? Like, where is the other things that we need?
Right.
They literally just did progesterone, told her she was normal.
Well, because if you're going through your normal practitioner, like, and again, I have family that works in that system, and you need it. Just like public ed, there will always be a reason for it, but it's not for everyone. Like there's not a one size fits all, and it doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay. But I've just never been okay not knowing what the other options are, and I just knew there were other options. So it led me to you, and we start going down the rabbit hole of labs, and I've never been happier. And now I feel like for a good like 3 months, every human I encountered, it was like, so have you heard of this place? And you know what they can do for you. Have you ever had your labs run for you? I was like, Dom at one point made a joke and was like, can you get her a punch card? How many people are coming through the door saying like, hey, Michele Hanna told me about this place? Because everybody needs something. We're not all walking around like Brecca that's got it all figured out with like every disposable income that you can throw at it. But you make it possible for somebody to walk in your door, be very overwhelmed, and have a plan of just figuring out what the first plan looks like. Like
meet them where they're at. Some people come in and I said, if you can afford $25 a month.
Vitamin D injection.
I knew
vitamin D.
Yes. Vitamin D is linked to literally everything.
And it changed. It changes so much. Like, and that's why I loved when we first had that conversation of, I need to be better. I need to feel better. And you weren't going to just start taking all of these things. It was, let's find out what you need first of all. But vitamin D is just the given. We're all deficient in it, and we all know it. So that was like a given. And you were honest about that. Like, Michele, if this is what you have dollars wise, this is what I want you to do with it for the next 3 months. Then let's have another conversation, because the way you're feeling right now can be improved anyways, regardless of what we do after this. So I started taking some supplements that we knew for sure that us as the United States, we are all deficient in. So that in itself, I knew was working, when then my husband's like, wait, can I get some? Yep, sounds good. So then we both for like 3 months, and I did a lot of gut repair. You were adamant, we got to get your gut healthy. Like, let's start there. Then let's revisit labs, because at that point, we've got some toxins out on top of you're getting a better homeostasis of a read. And then I met with Dom, and Dom's like, based on these labs, we could probably balance your hormones all different ways. Like, you're not an HRT candidate, which I was just banking on, everything on.
That's not why I'm crazy.
No, I was like, everything on the internet's telling me my cortisol's high. I'm in perimenopause, so everything will be fine if I just take this. And it wasn't that simple. And here I am going, what do you mean my cortisol isn't high? What do you mean I was a little estrogen dominant, but what we have delineated is that I had started building some insulin resistance. My testosterone's being suppressed somehow, but why and how and all the things needed to start getting tweaked. Just the supplement change in those 30 days helped get me some clarity, so just like a little less fog. And then I realized there's a better way, even a deeper way to go about this. And the menu was endless.
Yeah. And then I'm telling you, just the changes alone, what people make, even the baby changes, then I watch it trickle over into how they treat their family and their kids. And it is night and day sometimes of how do we become better parents.
Oh, yeah.
Is to get our health right.
Well, dysregulation in any form, whether it's physically or mentally, emotionally, it all ties back to one area, and that's that they all go together. It's not nothing can be looked at in isolation. Sure, to target a vitamin D deficiency, absolutely. Can you run a lab to look at more cardiac issues? Sure, but at the end of the day, it still came back to all of these things are interdependent, and they're going to affect one another. And you can focus on your liver, but your liver is going to focus on this, and then your kidneys on this, and then it still comes back to
an amoeba.
Yeah, that placebo. Johnny's going to die when he knows that I referenced him and told that. Like, I have no boundaries when it comes to him, and I love him for it. Like, I literally sat in the back of a vehicle describing something that was happening in my crotch to him. Like, on our way home from the beach. And I'm like, hey, just out of curiosity, since I don't have health insurance anymore, I'm in college. I'm like, since I don't have, oh God, that sounded bad. I'm in college talking about my crotch. I know, right? I'm in the car with my future brother-in-law. Zach and I aren't married at this point, and I'm like, I don't have health insurance, and I need you to like diagnose this without looking at my actual crotch. And he's like in the front seat, and and you can just see him like he's just taking it in, and I'm like, okay, so there's this little bump, and it kind of hurts, and it's in this area, and it's like, and I said, and I can't turn without it feeling like I'm gonna be like paralyzed, and he's like, I think it's called a Bartholin cyst, Michelle. Do you know what that is?
No.
Guys,
I know what a cyst is, but not a Bartholin.
Okay, all right. So I'm educating. Yeah. I don't know exactly what that is, but I do know that I didn't have health insurance at the time for anybody to look and tell me what it was. However, apparently it's very common in curly-haired girls. It's basically an ingrown hair that can be very, very sore. I couldn't walk without being like in tears, and then I messed with it because I'm a picker. And he's like, you did what? I go, yeah, now I can't even like lean up against the counter without feeling like I'm dying. He's like, well, let's start with it.
Why was your crotch on the counter?
Not my crotch. Okay. Not my crotch. I burst it. I burst the cyst under the surface, folks. It went into the groin, and then I was, as I'm leaning and my hips like touching it, everything was infected. It was bad. And he's like, all right, let's start with an antibiotic, and it's cheap, and you don't need insurance for that. We'll figure it out. I'm like, okay, sounds good. He goes, but now that you've told me that you burst it and I'm prescribing you medicine, I'm making you go to the actual doctor. And thank God he knew this OB who delivered his babies, and he got me on her nurse's schedule. This was not the healthcare system, by the way, that he's employed with by now. So you can't come at him for this. Snuck me onto the nurse's schedule and was like, I need you to look at her and just tell me that I'm not going to that I gave her the right meds, basically. And don't I get up on that counter, and she just decided to mess with it again, and I was in so much pain that I thought I was dying. And then she like looks up, from like the thing, and she's like this, and she's like, yep, you're on the right one. And I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. Perfect. Keep taking that meds. She's like, yep, you're fine, honey, don't worry about it, everybody gets these. I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. She goes, and that's when I knew about the curly hair. She's like, you curly haired girls. And I'm like, oh, great, so for the rest of my life this is gonna happen. She's like, no. She's like, I would just leave that area alone for a little while.
So if you're walking funny, we know.
Exactly. Right? No, I try not to like.
We're going to have a call on Monday, and they're going to be like, oh, so I have, I'm curly headed, and I have this like spot.
By the way, can you treat it with ozone? Like, You never know. You never know.
We ozone for all.
E-boo for the boo-boo on your crotch.
And that brings us to the very end. We've touched on the public school system. Michelle taking her kids out of school to her health journey to...
Wouldn't you want me teaching your kids? I mean, think about
I would love it. That's why we need the one-room schoolhouse. You as the teacher.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm getting it right, but I'm going to keep trying. And that's okay, because they're mine. And
Life is messy.
Life is messy. It is the
Life
point
is
phrase
messy.
of the century. Life is messy, but get comfortable in the uncomfortable, because it's so much more fun. And it's scary, but it's like this good, scary fun. And that place has helped my life in ways that I can't even, we don't have enough time to tell you.
No, we're out of time.
My girls will remember forever and ever that.
And they will get to look back and watch this.
God. I talk about crotches with them too. So
Okay.
It's okay.
Oh, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Right?
Your girls are awesome, though.
Aw,
I love
thanks.
when you guys come to the office and they just like hang out with us. It's great.
I have a lot of fun with them. They drive me crazy. We still have a very real life of mom being mad sometimes too, but it's just life is too. You miss a lot when you worry a lot, so I try not to worry too much anymore. You just see how it goes.
Be around people that don't worry very much.
Trial and error,
Yeah.
about life, your friends, all of it. You just got to give it a try and be okay walking away sometimes too.
And don't you worry, Michelle will be back for more. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everybody.